Yeah, absolutely. And this all has to do with how we're going to do standardized testing for this school year. There's a lot of different facets of this issue, but it basically breaks down like this. Right now, we don't have a lot of metrics to say how kids are doing in school or how COVID-19 is impacting them because we're not doing standardized tests. However, because we canceled them last year, there's no precedent on how to do it during a pandemic. So that's just some of the things that the State Board of Ed and that committee wrestled with today.
There's going to be some less students that participate in state assessment this coming year. It's reasonable to expect that, and we should have an increased tolerance towards that.
On April 22nd, state standardized testing was halted for last year by Senate Bill 3005. Now it's time to decide what to do for this school year. In a document prepared by the State Board of Education, it outlines that there are serious health risks. But, quote, despite these risks, we believe there is an increased need for academic achievement and growth data to help parents, educators, administrators, and policymakers understand and respond to the effects of COVID-19.
Many of us believe this data is actually more important this year than ever to help us understand those impacts.
Darren Nielsen is the Assistant State Superintendent of Student Learning and says with the absence of data from last year, we're lacking a lot of key indicators on how students are doing.
State assessment data helps us identify excellence within the state, and it also helps policymakers identify areas where schools might need additional resources.
But while this data is important to show how kids are progressing, the recommendation is to not use this testing data this year to hold students, teachers, and schools accountable.
Number 4 is the impacts of COVID-19 on our public education, assessment, and accountability specifically.
In today's Education Interim Committee hearing, they presented their findings and recommendations. Ultimately, the committee didn't have any objections to the State Board of Education's ideas.
The motion is to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
And for Nielsen and the State Board of Ed, they feel the data on how students are doing is more important than ever to understand the impacts on students from the pandemic.
Where can we reallocate time and resources to make sure those students that were impacted in a negative way, that we can take steps to mitigate that?
So with the committee not making any further recommendations, the State Board of Ed can now get to work on their plan for standardized testing this coming school year. On the Hill, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.